Luna had lived by the river for 5 years when she heard the scream. It pierced through the roar of the rushing water, the pounding rain, and every instinct telling her to stay inside where it was safe. A child's voice, high and terrified, crying for help. She didn't hesitate. She dropped the herbs she had been sorting and ran. The spring floods had come early this year, turning the normally gentle river into a raging force. The water surged high and fast, carrying branches, logs, and debris from upstream. And there, amid the chaos, a small white wolf pup struggled to keep its head above water. Luna's heart froze. A pup, a child, drowning. She didn't think about her isolation or the rules she had set for herself 5 years ago. She didn't consider the consequences or the pain that might follow. All she could focus on was the terrified pup, whose head kept slipping under the water. Luna sprinted to the river's edge and dove in. The cold hit her like a punch, stealing her breath. The current was stronger than she had anticipated, immediately trying to sweep her downstream. But Luna had lived here long enough to know the river, its moods, its dangers, its strengths. She fought through the torrent toward the pup, swimming with every ounce of energy. He was being carried away rapidly, his tiny body tossed in the waves. She could see his white fur and frantic paddling, and then, the worst. He vanished beneath the surface. No, no, no. Luna dove down, her eyes opened in the murky water. A flash of white. She seized him, arms locking around the small body, and kicked fiercely toward the surface. They broke through together. Luna gasped, lungs burning, while the pup coughed and choked in her arms. She scanned the water, desperate to find her bearings. The current had swept them far downstream past her cabin, but ahead, a fallen tree jutted into the river. If she could reach it. Luna pushed herself, muscles screaming, lungs on fire, holding the pup close. The current fought to drag them past, but at the last second, she caught a branch. For a long moment, she hung there, one hand gripping the branch, the other cradling the pup, too exhausted to move. The pup still coughed, weak and struggling, and Luna knew she had to get him to shore. Hand over hand, she pulled along the branch until her feet touched solid ground. Then she crawled onto the bank, the pup still clutched against her, both of them sinking into the mud. Luna rolled onto her back, the pup resting on her chest, and just breathed. Rain hammered down, mixing with the river water streaming from their bodies. The pup trembled violently, his tiny body racked with shivers. Hypothermia. He'd been in the water too long. Luna forced herself upright, cradling him close. He was so small, maybe 4 years old in human terms. His white fur clung to him, making him look even tinier, and his pale blue eyes, wide with fear, met hers with a trust that made her chest ache. "I've got you," Luna whispered. "You're safe now." She needed to get him warm, dry. Her cabin was upstream, but she didn't think she had the strength to carry him that far. There was a hunter's shelter nearby, just at the forest's edge. It would have to do. Luna struggled to her feet, holding the pup tight against her chest. Every step was agony. Her muscles felt like water, her lungs burned, and the cold numbed her fingers. But the pup depended on her, so she kept moving. The shelter was small and rough, but dry. Luna kicked the door open and stumbled inside, collapsing to the floor with the pup still in her arms. She needed to start a fire to get them both warm. But first, she noticed his breathing, shallow and rapid. His heartbeat was erratic. He was going into shock. Luna knew what she had to do. She had sworn 5 years ago never to use her gift directly again. The pain had been too great, the cost too high. She had isolated herself to avoid situations that would tempt her to break that vow. But this was a child, a pup, who would die without help. Taking a shaky breath, she placed her hands on his small body. She closed her eyes and let her gift flow. It was like opening a floodgate. The pup's pain, his terror, his trauma, all poured into her in a torrent that made her gasp. She felt the water in his lungs, the freezing cold in his limbs, the panic that had consumed him in the river. She absorbed it all, taking it into herself so he wouldn't have to carry it. Gradually, his breathing steadied. His heartbeat slowed to normal. The hypothermia faded, replaced by warmth. He shifted in her arms, no longer shivering, and made a small, contented sound. Luna held him a moment longer, ensuring he was truly healed. Then the pain hit her. It was like drowning all over again, trapped underwater with no way to surface. Luna couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the crushing weight of all she'd absorbed. She managed to lay the pup gently on the floor before collapsing beside him. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the pup's small, peaceful face, healthy and calm, and she thought, worth it. Then everything went black. Soren was furious, ready to tear apart every wolf in his guard if they didn't find his son within 5 minutes. "Spread out!" he roared, his voice cutting through the storm. "Check every bank, every eddy, every branch sticking out of the water. Find him!" 20 elite guards scattered, all in wolf form, all desperate to locate their prince. Soren remained human to shout orders, to coordinate the search, but every instinct screamed at him to shift and join the hunt. Flynn, his son, his 4-year-old son, had been playing by the river with his nursemaid and somehow ended up in the raging waters during the worst flood the territory had seen in a decade. "Alpha!" one guard called, a massive silver wolf named Storm, howling from downstream. "I've got a scent." Heading toward the old hunter's shelter. Soren shifted immediately. His silver-white wolf form exploded into being, larger than any of his guards, eyes glowing ice blue in the dim light. He surged forward, Storm and the others falling in behind him. Please, please let Flynn be alive. He couldn't lose him. Not like he had lost his mate. Flynn was everything, his reason for living, his joy, his hope. The hunter's shelter came into view, small, weathered but intact. The door was slightly open, and Soren could smell something. Someone. Not just Flynn, someone else. He shifted back to human form and burst through the door. What he saw made his heart stop. Flynn, alive and breathing normally, curled against a woman. She was unconscious, pale as death, her breathing shallow and labored. But Flynn was fine, completely fine. No scratches, no hypothermia, no sign he had nearly drowned 20 minutes ago. And the woman. The moment Soren's eyes landed on her, the mate bond struck with a force that nearly drove him to his knees. Every cell in his body oriented toward her, claiming her as his. She was breathtaking, silver-white hair falling in wet waves to her chest, skin so pale it almost glowed, delicate features carved from ice, even in unconscious suffering. She was the most stunning creature he had ever seen, and she had saved his son. "Storm," Soren said, his voice rough. "Shift. I need you to examine her." Storm shifted back to human form, a tall, lean man with silver hair and gray eyes. He was the pack's best healer after Sage. He knelt beside the woman, his hands moving with careful precision. "She's in some kind of shock," Storm reported after a moment. "Her vitals are all over the place. It's like she's experiencing something intensely traumatic, but I don't see any physical cause." Flynn stirred, his small wolf body uncurling. He looked up at Soren with those pale blue eyes, his mother's eyes, and let out a small, distressed sound. Soren immediately scooped him up, holding him tight. "You're safe," he murmured, relief flooding through him. "You're safe, Flynn. I've got you." But Flynn squirmed in his arms, looking back at the woman. He made another, more insistent sound. Soren realized his son was trying to go back to her. She saved you, didn't she? Soren asked softly. Flynn yipped, his tiny tail wagging. Then we'll take care of her, Soren promised. We'll make sure she's okay. Storm, can she be moved? I think she needs to be, Storm said grimly. Whatever's happening to her, it's beyond my ability to treat here. We need to get her back to the territory to Sage. Soren nodded. He handed Flynn to Storm, then carefully lifted the woman into his arms. She was light, too light, and cold despite having been out of the water. Up close, he could see the delicate tracery of veins beneath her pale skin, the silver eyelashes resting against her cheeks. Beautiful, fragile, his. The mate bond pulsed between them, loosening a knot of loneliness in Soren's chest, one he hadn't realized he'd carried for so long. He had been searching for his mate for 2 years, ever since his politically arranged marriage had ended with his wife's death in childbirth. 2 years of hoping, waiting, searching, and here she was, living by the river, saving his son. Let's move, Soren commanded. Storm, you carry Flynn. Everyone else, form a perimeter. Guards on all sides. The journey back to the territory took an hour. Soren carried his mate the entire way, refusing to let anyone else touch her. Flynn rode on Storm's back in wolf form, but kept glancing back at her with obvious concern. By the time they reached the territory, word had spread. Wolves lined the streets, all staring at the unconscious woman in their Alpha King's arms. Soren ignored them, heading straight for the healing center. Sage was waiting, her silver hair pulled back, gray eyes sharp and assessing. She took one look at the woman and immediately gestured to a private room. Put her here, Sage instructed, indicating a bed. Tell me everything. Soren laid his mate down carefully, then stepped back as Sage began her examination. Storm gave a quick report, explaining what he had found. Flynn, now back in his 4-year-old human form, stood at the edge of the bed, his small hand reaching out toward the woman. Don't, Flynn, Soren said gently, but his son ignored him. The moment Flynn's hand touched her arm, her eyes snapped open. They were the palest blue Soren had ever seen, almost white, ringed with silver. For a moment she stared at the ceiling, disoriented and confused. Then her gaze fell on Flynn, and something softened in her expression. You're okay, she whispered. Good. That's good. Her eyes then found Soren, and the world seemed to stop. The mate bond flared between them, almost visible, a golden thread connecting them deeper than flesh or bone. Luna's breath caught, her pale blue eyes widening in shock and recognition. Oh, she breathed. Oh no. She tried to sit up, swaying, and would have fallen if Soren hadn't caught her. His hands on her shoulders sent another shock through the bond, and Luna gasped. Easy, Soren murmured. You're safe. You're in my territory, in the healing center. I'm Soren, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. I know who you are. Luna interrupted, her voice weak. She looked down at Flynn, who was beaming, though still a little scared. You saved him, Soren said, his voice rough with emotion. You pulled him from the river. You did something to him. He should be hypothermic, traumatized. But he's completely fine. Luna's expression closed, carefully neutral. I'm a healer. I did what any healer would do. That's not what any healer would do, Sage said, her eyes sharp. Storm said you were in shock when they found you, experiencing phantom trauma, and the boy shows no signs of water exposure despite nearly drowning. What did you do? Luna was silent for a long moment, then said quietly, I have a gift. I can heal through direct touch, but I absorb whatever I'm healing. The pain, the trauma, the injury, all of it transfers to me instead. Soren felt ice run through his veins. You took his hypothermia, his trauma from nearly drowning. He's a child, Luna said simply. He doesn't deserve to carry that. I do. Soren's voice came out harsher than intended. Luna met his eyes steadily. Better me than him. Flynn, who had been watching with the solemn focus only a 4-year-old could manage, suddenly climbed onto the bed and wrapped his arms around Luna's waist. Mine, he declared, his small voice fierce. My Luna! Luna's carefully neutral expression cracked. She looked down at Flynn with obvious affection. Oh, sweetheart, I'm not… Mine, Flynn repeated stubbornly, burying his face against her side. Luna's hand came up automatically to stroke his silver-white hair. Soren watched the exchange, a warmth unfurling in his chest. Flynn hadn't bonded with anyone like this since his mother died. She looked up at him, and her face crumpled. I'm so relieved you're safe. I was so… He'd always been friendly with the pack, played with the other pups, but he had never claimed anyone before, never marked someone the way wolf pups did when they found a person they wanted to keep. He's right, Soren said quietly. You're ours. You're my mate. Luna's hand froze in Flynn's hair. She lifted her gaze to Soren, fear flickering in those pale blue eyes. No, I can't be. I can't belong to anyone, especially not to an alpha king. Do you even understand what my gift truly means? Every time you're hurt, every time you're in pain, I'll be forced to heal you. And every time I do, I'll take that pain into myself. I'll suffer, instead of you. Then I'll make sure I'm never injured, Soren replied. You're the Alpha King, Luna whispered, voice trembling. You're always in danger. You fight, you train, you protect your people nonstop. I can't. I can't live every day in agony because I'm unable to stop myself from healing you. What if there were a way to control it? Sage cut in. Her eyes were locked on Luna with sharp curiosity. This ability of yours, it's extraordinarily rare. I've only ever seen mention of it in the oldest records. The pain bearers. Healers who took suffering into their own bodies. And they all died young, Luna said coldly, because they couldn't stop themselves from healing everyone near them until it destroyed them. That's why I isolated myself 5 years ago. I lived in a pack healing everyone, and I was dying. So I left. I learned to use herbs and potions instead, and I swore I'd never use my gift directly again. But you broke that vow for Flynn, Soren said. Luna glanced down at the small boy still gripping her tightly. He's a child. I couldn't let him die. And what about you? Soren asked softly. Don't you deserve to live too? Luna didn't answer, and Soren felt a wave of protectiveness so fierce it nearly swallowed him whole. His mate, his beautiful, selfless mate, who believed her life mattered less than anyone else's. Stay, Soren said. Just a few days. Let Sage examine your gift. See if there's any way to control it. And let Flynn spend time with you. He's clearly chosen you. And trust me, my son doesn't give up once he decides something. He paused, struggling for words. And let me court you. Let me show you that you're precious, that your life has value, that you deserve to be cared for and protected. Luna looked between Soren and Flynn, torn. At last, she said, 3 days. I'll stay for 3 days. Then I return to my cabin. 3 days, Soren agreed, though he was already planning how to convince her to stay forever. During those 3 days, several things became obvious. First, Flynn was absolutely set on keeping Luna. He trailed after her everywhere, held her hand at every opportunity, and threw a spectacular tantrum any time someone hinted that she might leave. At night, he refused to sleep anywhere, except her room, curled against her in his small wolf pup form. He's never done this before, Soren told her on the second day. They stood in the gardens watching Flynn chase other pups through the grass, not since his mother had died. He'd been distant, friendly, but never attached. But with you, he feels safe, Luna said softly. I can feel it through his touch. All the fear from the river is gone. He doesn't have nightmares anymore because I took them from him. Soren's gaze sharpened. You took his potential nightmares too? I took everything, Luna said. All the trauma, all the fear, all the pain. That's how my gift works. He'll remember falling in the river, but it won't haunt him. Just a memory. Nothing more. And you? Do you have nightmares now? Luna didn't answer, and that silence was enough. Soren wanted to pull her into his arms, to promise he'd protect her from any of those nightmares, but he held back. Luna was skittish, wary, planning to leave in a day. He couldn't push too hard or she'd run. The second thing that became clear was how brilliant Luna was. She spent hours with Sage, discussing healing techniques, comparing herbs and potions. She knew things even Sage didn't, remedies from ancient texts she had studied during her years of isolation. She's extraordinary, Sage told Soren privately. Not just her gift, but her knowledge. She's self-taught, learned everything from books, and she's better than healers who've trained for decades. The third thing that became clear was how the mate bond affected Luna's gift in unexpected ways. It happened on the third day. Soren was training with his elite guard, sparring with his beta, Frost, a massive silver wolf and his friend since childhood. They were pushing each other hard when Frost landed a blow that split Soren's lip. Luna, walking nearby with Flynn, gasped and pressed her hand to her mouth. But instead of the usual pain flooding through her, absorbing his injury, she felt warmth, comfort, healing energy flowing from her to him, with nothing coming back. Soren's lip healed instantly, and Luna felt only a gentle tingle. Sage, who had been observing, let out a shocked laugh. The mate bond. It's filtering your gift. He's your true mate, Luna. The bond is protecting you from the backlash. Luna stared at Soren, who had stopped mid-spar to stare back at her. That's not possible. The ancient texts said. The ancient texts were written by people who'd never found their true mates. Sage interrupted. Pain-bearers are rare. True mates are even rarer. The odds of a pain-bearer finding their true mate are astronomical. But you did, and the bond is changing the rules. Luna looked shaken. Soren immediately crossed to her, taking her hands in his. The touch sent warmth through them both, the mate bond singing in satisfaction. Test it, Soren said. Let Frost hit me again. See what happens. No. Luna pulled back, horrified. I'm not going to let someone hurt you just to test a theory. Then how will we know for sure? Soren asked gently. Before Luna could answer, Flynn, practicing his own little fighting moves with the other pups, tripped and scraped his knee. He immediately ran to Luna, climbing into her lap with a whimper. Luna's hands moved to Flynn's knee without hesitation, her healing instinct taking over. The scrape sealed instantly, smooth skin replacing the injury. She waited for the familiar burn of pain, the sting of trauma transferring into her body. But nothing came. Flynn was Soren's son. The mate bond extended to him too. Luna lifted her gaze to Soren, wonder shimmering in her pale blue eyes. I didn't feel anything. I healed him, and I didn't feel anything. The moon goddess provides, Sage said softly. She gives gifts, but she also gives solutions. You were meant to find each other, Luna. You were meant to save Flynn. This is all part of her plan. Tears spilled silently down Luna's cheeks. I can stay. I can be with you and Flynn without hurting. You can stay, Soren said, pulling her into his arms, with Flynn squished happily between them. You can be my mate, Flynn's mother, our Pax Luna. You can heal without pain. You can have everything you thought you'd lost. Luna buried her face against his chest and sobbed. Years of loneliness, fear, and resignation pouring out in one trembling release. Soren held her tightly, one hand stroking her silver hair while the other steadied Flynn, who was patting Luna's arm with a tiny frown of concern. "Don't cry, Luna," Flynn said earnestly. "You're staying now. You're my mama now. No more crying." That only made Luna cry harder, but she was smiling too, laughing through her tears. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, sweetheart. No more crying. I'm staying." 2 months later, the mating ceremony was held under the full moon. Luna wore a dress of silver and white that made her look like living moonlight. Her long hair flowed freely, shimmering with every breath of wind, making her seem ethereal, otherworldly, perfect. Flynn stood proudly at her side in his little ceremonial outfit, gripping her hand tightly. For 2 months straight, he'd made absolutely sure the entire pack knew Luna was his mama, and he wasn't about to let anyone forget it. Soren waited at the altar, flanked by his elite guard, 20 wolves in human form, all in formal dress. Frost, his beta, stood at his right, Storm at his left. Both were grinning like fools. "About time you found her," Frost had said that morning while helping Soren dress. 2 years we searched. 2 years of you being miserable and lonely, and she was right here the whole time, living by the river. "The moon goddess has perfect timing," Soren had answered. Now, watching Luna walk toward him with their son at her side, Soren knew it was true. Every lonely night, every failed search, every moment of doubt had led them to this moment. When Luna reached the altar, Sage began the ceremony. The words were ancient, sacred, binding them before the moon goddess and the pack. But Soren barely heard them. He only saw her. He was completely focused on Luna, on the way her pale blue eyes sparkled with joy, on the small, radiant smile playing across her lips. When it came time for the marking, Soren gently cupped her face in his hands. "I love you," he said softly, for her alone. "I love your kindness, your strength, your willingness to sacrifice for others. I love that you saved my son. I love that you're healing our pack, not just with your gift, but with your presence. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you know how precious you are." Luna's smile grew wider. "I love you too. I love your dedication to your people, your devotion to Flynn, your patience with me. I love that you gave me a choice, that you waited until I was ready. I promise to stand beside you, to be the Luna your pack needs, to raise Flynn with all the love he deserves." Soren kissed her then, deeply, fully, and the mate bond exploded between them in a wave of golden light that made the entire pack gasp. When he marked her neck, claiming her before the moon goddess and all witnesses, Luna's gift flared. Instead of pain, instead of absorbing the bite, she channeled, healing energy back to him, strengthening him, blessing him, tying them together in a way beyond flesh and blood. The pack erupted in celebration. Howls rang across the territory, a sound of joy and acceptance that Luna felt deep in her soul. Flynn bounced up and down, cheering, until Luna scooped him up and he buried his face against her neck with a happy little sound. "My mama," he mumbled. "Mine." "Yours," Luna confirmed, pressing a kiss to his silver hair. "Always yours." 5 years later, Luna sat in the healing center, surrounded by young healers eager to learn from her. She was demonstrating how to make a particularly complex potion when Flynn burst through the door, now 9 years old and already showing signs of growing tall and strong like his father. "Mama," he called. "Father says you need to come to the council room right now." Luna raised an eyebrow. "Did he say why?" "Nope," Flynn replied, bouncing on his heels with barely contained excitement. "But you have to come now." Excusing herself from the healers, Luna followed her son through the territory. Over the past 5 years, she had become an essential part of the pack. She had trained dozens of healers, established healing centers in every settlement, and saved countless lives using her gift, without pain, all safeguarded by the mate bond. She had also discovered that the bond extended beyond Soren and Flynn. She could now heal anyone in their pack without absorbing pain, as long as she did it willingly and with love. It was the fear, resentment, and unwillingness that had caused her suffering before. But now, healing from a place of genuine care and protected by the mate bond, she could help everyone. Flynn led her to the council room where Soren stood waiting with Sage, Frost, Storm, and several other high-ranking pack members. Every one of them was grinning. "What's going on?" Luna asked, narrowing her eyes suspiciously. Soren stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. Over the years, he had only grown more handsome, his silver hair longer, his body stronger from constant training, yet he still looked at her, as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "Tell her," Flynn demanded, practically vibrating with excitement. Sage stepped up, her gray eyes sparkling. "Luna, I've been studying bloodlines and gifts, trying to understand why your pain-bearer gift manifested the way it did. And I discovered something fascinating." She paused dramatically, and Luna had to fight the urge to roll her eyes. Sage loved theatrics. "Your gift didn't manifest randomly," Sage continued. "It's hereditary, extremely rare, but hereditary, which means—" Luna's breath hitched. She looked at Soren, whose grin had softened into something tender. "Which means our daughter will probably inherit it," Soren finished. Luna's hand flew to her still flat stomach. "Daughter?" "Sage confirmed it this morning," Soren said. "You're pregnant, 3 months along, and it's a girl." Tears spilled down Luna's cheeks. Happy, overwhelming tears. Flynn cheered, already rambling about being a big brother. Sage beamed proudly. The entire council looked like they were about to burst with joy. "A daughter?" Luna whispered. "We're having a daughter." Soren pulled her close, resting a warm hand on her stomach. "A daughter who will have your gift, your strength, your kindness," he said softly. "A daughter who will grow up knowing she's loved. A daughter who'll never suffer the way you did, because she'll have her family, her true home, from the moment she's born." Luna kissed him, pouring all her love and gratitude into the moment. When they finally pulled apart, Flynn immediately wedged himself between them, demanding attention and chattering about all the things he would teach his little sister. 3 years later, Luna sat in the gardens watching her 3 children play. Flynn, now 12, was already shifting into a magnificent silver-white wolf nearly as large as Soren. Aurora, the 3-year-old daughter they had awaited so eagerly, had Luna's silver hair, Soren's ice-blue eyes, and a pain-bearer gift that manifested as gentle, loving healing. And their surprise son, Ash, just 6 months old, already showed hints of silver fur for when he would one day shift. Soren sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, watching their children with unmistakable pride and love. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly. "Leaving your isolation? Joining us?" Soren asked, but Luna looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Regret the best decision I ever made? Regret finding my mate? Raising these incredible children? Healing our pack? Being happier than I ever thought possible? No, Soren. I don't regret any of it." She watched Aurora carefully mend a butterfly's wing, Flynn hovering protectively beside her, while little Ash babbled happily on his blanket. "I spent 5 years thinking I was cursed," Luna said quietly, "thinking my gift was a burden I was meant to suffer with alone. But I wasn't cursed. I was blessed. The moon goddess gave me a gift that led me exactly where I needed to be. To a drowning pup in a river. To a desperate alpha king searching for his mate. To a family that taught me that healing doesn't have to hurt when it comes from love." Soren pressed a kiss to her temple. "I love you." "I love you too," Luna replied. Then, louder, Flynn, your sister is trying to heal Rocks now. You might want to explain that Rocks aren't actually injured. Flynn's offended. Aurora, no, made both parents laugh. Years later, when young wolves came to Luna, afraid of gifts they didn't understand, overwhelmed by powers they couldn't control, she always smiled and told them her story. She told them about living in isolation, about saving a drowning pup, about realizing that what she thought was a curse was actually the moon goddess guiding her to everything she would ever need. Gifts aren't burdens, she'd say, her silver hair streaked with gray now, though her pale blue eyes still shone with warmth. They're tools, ways for us to help others, to serve our purpose. But they only feel heavy when we attach fear to them. She'd gesture toward her family. Soren, still strong and protective, still looking at her with the same love he'd had 20 years before. Flynn, now a high-ranking warrior in the Guard. Aurora, studying to become the pack's head healer. Ash, already showing signs of inheriting his father's sharp strategic mind. I used to think my gift meant I was meant to suffer alone, Luna would say. But it was preparing me to heal not just with my hands, but with my heart, to build a family that would show others what unconditional love looks like, to teach young healers that power doesn't have to come with pain when it's rooted in love. The moon goddess has a plan, she'd tell them, her hand automatically finding Soren's, their bond still as strong as the day they'd mated. Sometimes that plan involves isolation, so we can learn who we are. Sometimes it involves saving a drowning pup in a river, and sometimes it involves finding your mate when you least expect it. But the plan is always there, always guiding you exactly where you need to be. You just have to be brave enough to dive into the river when you hear someone calling for help. You have to trust that when you sacrifice yourself for others, the moon goddess will ensure you're never truly alone. You have to believe that your gifts, whatever they are, were given to you for a reason. Luna would look at each young wolf with absolute certainty and say, "You are not cursed. You are blessed. Somewhere, your purpose is waiting. Your family is waiting. Your future is waiting. You just have to be brave enough to reach for it." And every time, without fail, the young wolves would leave her presence feeling lighter, stronger, and more hopeful. Because Luna wasn't just a healer of bodies, she was a healer of hearts, of fears, of doubts. She was exactly what the moon goddess had intended her to be.